All right, folks. So, welcome to this kind of short, well, maybe not necessarily very short, but this is going to be a conversation with PJCE Records director Ryan Meagher, and then Andrew Oliver, who's down here. Andrew, why don't you wave? And then there's Dan Duval. Dan, come on, wave for me. There you go. Very good. Very good. So, Ryan, why don't you take it away? Why are we here today?
Sure, yeah. I guess we'll start with some brief introductions. I'm Ryan Meagher, and I'm the current director of the PJCE Records label under the wing of the Portland Jazz Composers Ensemble organization. And I'm going to start with a bit of a disclaimer for tech issues. Yesterday, my next door neighbor was having a tree cut down, and they cut the cable for my internet. So I'm working from my phone's hotspot, and Douglas and I yesterday we did do a test run, and it seemed to work sometimes. But if I start to sound like a robot or I don't respond to questions, it's not because I don't like you guys. It's just because I probably didn't hear it, or you sounded like a robot yourself. And if you guys lose me, then I don't know. Do whatever you want.
We'll just go on.
So yeah, I'm the current director of the label, and we're here. An exciting release that was dug up from the archives of the Ocular Concern, who is a group that is one of our, kind of like flagship ensembles that's in the catalog of PJCE Records, because their first release, Sister Cities, was such a success. So that's me.
And you use the word current. We'll explain that why, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so Andrew, why don't you are of course a piano player and composer, and you are also the founding executive director of Portland Jazz Composers Ensemble. Is that not right?
It is indeed. Guilty as charged. I've caused everyone years of misery and underpaid labor. It's all my fault.
Happily underpaid labor. And then Dan Duval is playing guitar on the album as well. And you were the founder of PJCE Records, and you're also involved a lot with PJCE getting started as well.
Again,
right?
guilty as charged. Yep.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
one.
thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of the first hires that Andrew and Gus brought in after they got the nonprofit status. And after doing a kind of crazy variety of various odd jobs and administrative tasks and enjoying collaborating on events and things, I guess Andrew and I got the idea to add a record label after maybe the nonprofit was 3 or 4 years old, as I recall, because it wasn't complicated enough the way it was before.
Yeah, we got inspired by some recordings that we did, for fun, and we thought that in addition to running the large ensemble, it would be nice to have some opportunity to just kind of document and record stuff that other people were playing outside of the large ensemble itself. And I know you guys have done a lot more beyond just the ensemble, since I left and everything. So it was kind of the beginning of that idea, I think, was the label, really.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, in the PJCE fundraiser the other night, Daryl Grant called the PJCE one of the more important arts organizations on the West Coast, if not the country, and that was high praise coming from Daryl Grant. But hearing that now, how does that make you guys feel as the early leaders in the ensemble?
Well, Daryl's always been really supportive. I mean, he was a teacher of ours, and well, at least mine at Portland State, and quite inspiring. And he was always somebody who encouraged us a lot at the beginning to get this thing rolling and to sort of expand our scope and projects. And he was he's been on board for a long time. So I'm glad to hear that he's still strongly involved. And I mean, I'm just really impressed with what you guys have done. Honestly, I was kind of excited about everything, and and I wanted to get some infrastructure happening for creative music. And I think that the projects that you guys have done in the past 7 years since I signed off from the organization have been really cool and inspiring, and it's great to see.
Yeah, that's really high praise coming from Daryl, and it's a little surprising because I haven't kept up with the details of what you all have done. I know you've been busy and put on a lot of great concerts and funded a lot of new compositions and done some interesting things, getting the ensemble on the road a little bit throughout the state of Oregon. But I've always viewed it as a small grassroots organization. It's a small group of local players, mainly on the recordings on the label and in your flagship ensemble. And the distribution model is fairly small. Chances are, if you haven't bought a CD directly from the hands of the artist who made it, you probably have never heard of the label. So honestly, I'm surprised to hear Daryl. I mean, he was being kind. With praise, and we're very lucky that he's such an admirer of this type of project, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. Well, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about the formation of the band, and then introduce the first tune that we're going to listen to as a group, which will be Biennial.
Okay. Well, gosh, Dan and I played in my old band, the Andrew Oliver Sextet, which anybody here who's, well, there may be somebody watching who remembers that archaic experiment. And we got together with Stephen Panzer when he got back from Providence. He had been living out there for a long time. Before that, he lived here, and he was involved in a lot of great musical projects. And so we started playing as a trio. I don't really remember why, other than
I remember that there were one or two occasions when we played as a duo, guitar and piano.
Yeah.
Some weird hotel lobby, and then at the Tugboat, if anybody remembers that place.
Oh, another sadly lost piece of history there.
Yeah, and then at some point we were like, hey, this duo thing is fun, and if Steve Pansterev was added to this, it would be instantly really cool. So we had a few compositions that were written for just guitar and piano alone. And we never, as I recall, wrote drum parts. It was like, hey, Steve, look at this piano part and play whatever you want on the drums, was usually how it worked. And this song we're about to hear, actually, I had totally forgotten that I play electric bass on this song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, we played as a trio for a long time. We made a little recording, and then we added David Evans to play clarinet with us when we did this project at the Hollywood Theater, where we scored a Japanese monster movie from the 1960s. That was, I think, probably the most fun gig of my life.
Agreed.
We wrote all this music to accompany this film, and there were live voice actors. It was sponsored by an organization called Film Music, which was run by this really awesome guy called Galen Huckins. I don't think he lives here anymore. He went off to float a barge down the entire Mississippi River and broadcast it live on the radio. So it gives you an idea of the kind of guy he is. So anyway, so we did this project, and it was so nice to have a horn. And Lee Elderton came back from California. We added him to the band. And then I had been playing a lot of Zimbabwean music with Nathan Beck. And on this track, he plays mbira, the Zimbabwean thumb piano. So he's been playing that music for a long time. Gone down there, studied with a lot of great people. He runs the band Boca Marimba in town. They've been around since I was a kid. I used to go see him at the Saturday Market. And, Nathan, I didn't know really at the time, but he, we were playing in this Zimbabwean pop band with Love Neswesa. And turns out that he's also like a jazz vibraphonist, like on the side, but he hardly ever played any jazz. And then we asked him to join the Ocular Concern to play a couple of songs on mbira, and then he was like, well, I can play some vibes, so. And
at that point we were also like a really enormous Claudia Quintet fan, if anyone here remembers the great John Hollenbeck project with vibraphone and clarinet and a lot of kind of Steve Reich influenced minimalist modern jazz. Right. At the time that the Ocular Concern was formed, Andrew and I were, I think, obsessing over those albums and listening to them a lot. And Andrew, in fact, studied with John a little bit in New York. So adding clarinet and vibraphone to the band was consciously an effort to be almost like Portland Claudia Quintet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But anyway, this song actually I wrote a long time before this band. It was originally something I came up with for Redfish Bluefish, which was a duet I had with Tyson Stubelic when we were like 15 or something, and so it was just a drums and keyboard kind of thing. And I thought when we added the Imbira in here, it sounded really cool, so I would expand it for the Ocular Concern. So that's how this song came into the Ocular Concern rep. And yeah, Dan pulled out his electric bass for this one too.
All right, should we hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. All right, and we're back.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, Ryan, still there?
Hopefully I'm coming in okay. But yeah, I love that track. One of the things that I love about this ensemble and both records now is the interesting like instrumentation and like timbral texture that happens in this music, especially on Sister Cities with like essentially a string quartet vibe. You're hearing a lot of sounds that you don't hear on like a traditional mainstream jazz record. And a lot of the times the timbral choices are like very mellow, like not harsh or bright. The Mbira is very just like kind of like dulcet, and there's like kind of like it feels like velvet, just like different streams of fabric of just kind of woven together, and it's all very plush and nice. Like, is the timbre something that you think about when you write pieces, or was it at the very center of like how this project came to be, or just like talk about like the timbral choices that you guys deal with this ensemble?
I think that was always the easiest way for me to conceive of music as a composer, is like, what are the instruments I'm writing for, and what could this combination of instruments do that's cool? And I don't mean to be patting myself on the back, because I think conversely, I've never written anything that works well as a lead sheet. Like, I'm able to kind of think about, or in the past when I was writing a lot of music, I could think about, these instruments have these possibilities. But I never could crank out something that was like, here's the chords, here's the melody, anyone can play it, and it'll be memorable or whatever. So I guess just a different approach to writing. I was always jealous of people who could write the hooky, catchy, memorable melody that would work on any group of instruments.
Yeah.
I always thought was harder to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, with this band, it was like very much about what you could get out of the textures of those instruments together, and it was definitely a big part of it, from my perspective as well. I basically agree with Dan. I think it's easier to write for a specific thing than to just write a tune. Well, like we were saying before, that I think the Claudia Quintet and some of the other contemporary like influences we were checking out at that time, we're integrating strings in, and I also like that sort of chamber aesthetic, just like as a way to get away from the traditional jazz instrumentation. Personally, a lot of like trumpet and saxophone solos can get to be a bit much rather quickly for me. So I've always kind of put myself in, especially like around the time we were working on this music, like 2010 to 2013, basically, I was really trying to get away from that kind of sound and towards more composed things, and more sort of where we integrate, composition and improvisation a bit more than having a lot of long solos. And so having kind of more textural instruments like the vibes and the Mbira, to me, like we're a nice way to accomplish that. And the strings as well,
And I think our choice of drummer actually really reflects that mentality as well. Mm-hmm. Because something you'll never hear Stephen Pansereau do on an Ocular Concern album is play like a standard swing ride pattern with the hi-hat on 2 and 4. Like, he doesn't even show up with that stuff. He'll show up to the gig with like a bass drum, a snare drum, and a hi-hat and a tambourine, and that's all.
Or one time he showed up with 3 snare drums and 1 cymbal.
Yeah. Ryan's having some trouble here, but yeah, I was going to say that definitely Steven's drumming is definitely kind of on the darker side. Mm-hmm. As far as drum sets go, just the sound of the drums and the way he plays them, yeah, it definitely has a very like, I'd say overall the album to me has a very kind of a hypnotic quality to it. Like, it's very, it invites pondering. And invites meditation, I think, in some ways, but I think it also invites dancing. Like, it's very rhythmic, and it's really fun in terms of just the grooves that are happening there, and just all those beautiful timbres and all that rhythm. I think turns it into something that's really has that danceable quality, even though it's obviously not a it's a jazz record and not a dance record. But yeah.
Yeah, groove is important. I mean, I obviously play a lot of old time jazz, especially now more than then, and it's always been something that's important, to me in music. So it's always in there in some form or other.
Cool. Well, should we go on to the next one?
Yeah.
What do you think, Ryan?
I'm not sure again if you can hear me, but yeah, let's introduce the next tune. We're going to play Choral Meme, which has an evocative title to me. I'd like to know where the title came from, and then
oh yeah,
this is one of the.
Oh,
Where'd it go?
we're losing
all right,
Ryan.
Dan, give us the scoop on Choral Meme. That's a good story.
Oh, hi, Frida. My daughter is coming through and bringing lots of soft plush toys with her. For the distraction. Choral Meme was from a really bizarre book called Spiral Dynamics, which I learned about through Andrew's wife, actually. I think she read it for her master's in psychology or something like that. And I saw it there in their living room once and said, what the hell is this? This is intriguing looking. And the book is about, it's kind of a social sciences book about the way that humanity collectively has developed different modes of thinking to counter and cope with various life conditions in the world. And choral meme is like the term he's given to some hypothetical future mode of dealing with the world that we have not arrived at yet, which was a fun idea to me.
Cool. All right, let's hear the music.
Good tune, Dan.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
guys.
Still good all these years later.
I was thinking about how funny it is that we were just so hyperactive and busy back then that there was a surplus. We had a jazz surplus.
We had a whole album.
Well, how did that happen? So because I know you went into the studio to do Sister Cities, and then what? You just had so much more that you just kept going?
Yeah, basically, we scheduled the third day.
There was another element to that, actually, which was grant funding language. I remember at the time that we were committed to releasing all our most freshly composed material on Sister Cities because of its funding. And meanwhile, we had all these tunes that we had played on a million gigs that felt really lived in. And most of that is actually what's on the Lost album, is the stuff that we had written further back and played more. And at the time, I remember feeling frustrated too. I was like, we're shelving the better album and releasing the more risky album. Although I like them both, but it's really vindicating and exciting to see now that this is like becoming a release.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna move in we recorded this in like May or something.
Yeah, you moved out after that.
Right afterwards. So we didn't have it. You know, we also scheduled the third day because we wanted to make sure to record the stuff that we had been playing, like Dan said, on the gigs, you know, before I left, so that we would have it documented for some reason. This is now the reason, I guess.
It was great, though, that we were in a position where, because we had gotten the RAC grant, we were like, oh, normally we can't afford this quantity of studio time. So we're there. Okay, go ahead. We're in there for like 3 or 4 days. It was more time than we needed to get Sister Cities down. So it's like, well, might as well just get everything while we're here.
Sure. And now we're all benefiting from that, from your great foresight.
I don't know about foresight. I think Dan's, you know, as hyperactivity terminology is probably more accurate than foresight.
Yeah. I've got a question from Ryan. He's still moderating our discussion even from afar, but he's asking about your guitar pedals on Quora meme. Dan, can you give us a rundown of what your gear was like back then?
Yeah, you know, I'm not like by any means a gear nerd. So I have this delay and looping pedal that I've had forever that I bought used. That I think it's made by Electro Harmonics. I don't even remember the exact name of it. It has like a backwards delay type of effect on there, which is one of my favorites. I always had admired the big green delay pedal that Bill Frisell is famous for using, but had never actually gotten one of those. Maybe I still will someday, even though I'm retired.
I've got one I could sell you. I don't use it. Well, that is awesome. Let's listen to the third one. So this is, what is this called? Smoke Point, is that right? Yeah. You guys take it away and introduce this one for me.
This is my favorite thing maybe that I've written maybe ever, but definitely for this band. And it's just kind of a rock tune with a weird prog rock section in the middle. I guess on some level it reflects probably my love of King Crimson and Yes and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And the band plays it really great. Steven in particular is really kicking ass, really beating the shit out of the drums. So,
yeah, that was funny. I remember Steve, you know, because it was electric guitar and electric piano, and you know, at first we would like play very softly, and like one of the things we wanted to do in this band was to like play quite softly. And then I remember at some point Steve was like, "This is stupid, you know. Like I'm playing drums, and you guys both have amps. We should actually just play really loudly." But we kind of, you know, we changed the whole thing. At some point we changed that because like the EP that we put out, which is somewhere online, is like all very soft, you know. And then once we started expanding the band and, you know, realized that there was all this amplification, and Nathan too, like one of the amazing things, I think, speaking of gear, is that he has this vibraphone with a pickup. The pickup is on each bar. It was like this vintage pickup from like the 50s. And so each bar has like an individual contact pickup on it. And this thing is a huge pain in the ass. And it's hooked up to an amp with chorus.
Wow.
So that's like on the last tune. That's why the vibes, it's not just the motor, but it's also chorus. The vibes running through an amp. So that's cool, you know, but
right.
Anyway,
All right.
yeah.
Cool. Well,
So it's loud, right?
is-
It's loud. We discovered we could be loud as well. That was what I was trying to say.
I think we'll discover that. Yes.
Yeah.
Here is Smoke Point. Let me get that started. Good job, guys.
Yes,
That's a banger.
it is. Oh,
All
man.
banger, no mash.
No, no match.
Hold the mat.
Oh, whoops. I wanted to get rid of that. So I wanted to first start out by saying that folks who are watching and listening to this stream right now and who will check it out later, you can get this music in the full resolution wave or whatever other kind of audio file you like at the PJCE Bandcamp store, pjce.bandcamp.com. So head over there, you can stream it and listen to it, and we hope that you'll buy it, add it to your collection. And also another thing that's important about today, which is December 4th, it is Bandcamp Friday. It's going to be the last one of 2020. But Bandcamp Friday is where Bandcamp waives all of their fees on purchases. So then more of the proceeds go towards artists and labels. So today is a great day to do it, and I encourage you to buy this album, get the old Ocular Concern album, and also pick up a few other PJCE Records releases, because all of these artists would love to see you taking that music home, making it part of your life, and supporting all of them at the same time too. So I encourage you to do that. pjce.bandcamp.com. So Andrew and Dan, one thing we wanted to kind of cover before we wrap this one up, and we'll make it our last question. There's I think one thing that's happened during this pandemic has been for sure that a lot of musicians are of course everybody's circumstance is different, but a lot of folks are maybe finding themselves living in a month-to-month sort of situation financially. And as this pandemic has made even that existence impossible for a musician, in terms of performing at least, a lot of people are kind of considering other career options, and we can talk about that a little bit because I know you guys both have kind of stories about that. But so there's going to be a lot of that kind of damage that we go through as we recover from this time. And I think that I'm hoping that PJCE will be part of, kind of building things back up and trying to reconnect to the audience, to all the musicians, and be like, hey, we're still here, even though maybe we weren't as busy as we were. But I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about that, about how you're faring during this time, kind of musically and otherwise, and what's keeping you moving, what's keeping you inspired, or not. And also, what has changed for you musically since 2013?
Oh my God.
Cool.
2015.
It's a big question.
Yeah, big question. I mean, it's funny to release an album in a way by this band, because now we are basically, nobody in this band is playing music for a living, if at all. We hung out this summer, me, Dan, and Steve, and we it was funny. Steve said he hadn't touched a drum set in a year and a half or something. So it is sort of a lot of things have changed for everybody, I think. I mean, I went to London and came back, and sort of when the pandemic hit in the spring, I was thinking about what to do when I got back anyway, and realized that I jumped the gun on the imminent demise of the music industry, and decided to do something completely different. So now I'm doing a master's in urban and regional planning at Portland State, which is very fun, interesting, and it's definitely very different. But I mean, I haven't stopped playing music. I've stopped playing music with other people, like everybody. But it's there'll be more music to play. But
yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's one thing, is that I think PJCE, one thing that I think is important about what we do is that we we do our rehearsals at night. That's one thing, and we do that because some of our musicians have day jobs, and we're okay with that. So I think that
I think that there's we could have a whole long and depressing, or at least controversial, discussion about whether or not the culture of that's sort of encouraged I feel to avoid having a day job is good or bad, and where it comes from, and whether or not it's even relevant anymore. And I mean, I think the pandemic is causing a lot of people to rethink that. But I mean, Dan and I have been talking about this for years, and Dan long since went and did a bunch of other things,
Yeah,
How
I
do you
mean,
become a realtor?
yeah. Well, I've been through even before I can't blame the pandemic for turning me into a quitter because 4 years ago I had a kid and retired almost all the way from music, not for the first time. So many times throughout my 20s and 30s, I was going back and forth between should I teach more, should I do something else, should I quit completely, and I'd always kind of come and go, and probably that caused me to be rude to certain people at certain times. And sorry if anyone of those people are listening now. And I ended up very happily working in the restaurant industry as a dad. And now, due to the pandemic, I'm in the middle of switching from restaurants into, as Andrew mentioned, real estate, which it turns out it is very interesting to me. So all over the place. I've had a very erratic career when you factor in the music and bars and restaurants, and now getting a real estate license and activating that in January. It's been a crazy. I don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. It's a tough question, but I think for both of you guys, I see music in your future in some part anyway, and I know that and I suppose the good thing, the upside of having the day job is that you can only play gigs you want to play, and you don't have to play ones that are only about getting paid.
I'd like to also say that all these experiences have forced me to deeply acknowledge that once a musician, always a musician, and for people like us, at least for me, my ability to feel good about myself as a human being is in some way tied to maintaining some musical ability. So when I'm in a situation where I'm really rusty and I end up trying to do something on some instrument and it doesn't go well, I just feel awful about myself. Other times when I'm involved in some kind of, whether it's just casually playing the guitar or keyboard around the house, I feel a deep sense of peace that no other activities really give me. So I guess count that maybe as encouragement for anyone who's wondering whether or not to make music a big part of your life.
Yeah, if you don't feel that way, maybe it's not the right thing for you.
I mean, it's not probably going to pay off in other ways, maybe so.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think it's good to have that discussion in the context of like, separating it from the career path in a way, because I feel like in the past, there have been certainly eras when that wasn't necessary, when you could have it all and it was relatively easy, in say the early to mid 20s, and I think probably in the mid 50s, for jazz, and probably again in the 90s, like here in Portland for jazz for sure, the 80s and 90s. So, and we're not in one of those periods now. So, that's how it
No, I
is.
don't think that during my lifetime, the jazz business has been part of the entertainment business.
You said it has not?
It has not been during my life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a separate little thing.
Yeah.
That's not intended to sound like an insult in any way.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think
true.
that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a different kind of economy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that you guys both said a lot of things that I think are right on, and I think that kind of the overall message, I think that the PJCE supports is that there is a way to be kind of creating and consuming and music in a way that is fulfilling personally, and it can be maybe it's not something you make any money or very little money doing, but we do find that music still enriches a community and provides a way for people to express ideas and emotions that can't be expressed other ways, and so that's why it's important, and it still captures a cultural experience that's really relevant. And I think the challenge then is on us to find a way to create a context that it becomes more relevant and more valuable to as many people as we can. And I know we're not going to reach the same audience that Beyonce can reach, obviously, but for those small people that we do reach, that small tiny little slice of people that do care about what we're doing, I think then it's a bit on us to use the tools that are out there to try to find a way to make this music more relevant to more people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in that. Some people are more pessimistic and say people should like this music no matter what, but I don't really believe in that.
We could have another hour discussion about that. I mean,
we could.
I in my youth, I really thought people should like this because it is what I'm giving them, and like I think it's interesting for whatever reason, so they should think it's interesting. But I mean, those days are long gone. So, but I think without that attitude, we wouldn't, as you and I have talked about many times, I would have never bothered starting this organization. But I'm very glad to see that it's matured beyond that sort of philosophy,
We're living also in a world where your thing that you're passionate about can be a relatively small niche globally speaking, but we have the tools and communications technology for you to meet every single one of the people on this planet who shares that niche with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's never been an easier time to be into an obscure thing and find people to share it with.
For example, after this, I'm going to go on a Zoom call with my 78 collector friends who collect obscure ancient records from the 20s and 30s and play them for each other over Zoom on Friday for fun. Now, if that is a niche, I don't know what is.
That is very niche. You win the niche award, I think, Andrew Oliver. Cool. Well, guys, I think let's wrap it up there. It was great to talk to you guys, and thanks so much for putting out this record. We're telling people about it now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what people have to say about it and that they'll check it out. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having it on the label. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks also to Ryan Meagher, who had a big hand in doing all the work to put this one out and also couldn't be here. His internet is dying. So thanks, Ryan. Sorry about your internet. I hope you get it back soon. But everybody, so remember pjce.bandcamp.com. And click on the Ocular Concern. It's the top on the list right now. So go and get it. Take a listen at the full resolution. You can download the full quality files or MP3s, whatever works for you. And that's it. Go get it.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you later. And goodbye to all the folks at home. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.